Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're here. Monday shows are officially back. It is authentic. The original is back. Just Tots though.
Yeah, I've shuffled across the couch.
We're
We
gonna
know Flynn again.
we're doing a VAR on Flynn's contract here. We might have to rip it up. We have to sack him in the
Yeah,
morning.
to be fair to him, we kind of did
We did stitch him up.
organise or slightly organise a time for the Arvo. However,
We
I
have to
forgot
backtrack.
that I had uni, and I think that
We've got three guys at different times, so it might be a shuffling couch this year. We have to wait and see. But the benefit of the three of us, we're all going to be at some point in top. That's the best thing
I
we
think
can
he's
say.
happy to do an 8 a.m.
We
slot.
could get some nice early morning
Yeah.
podcasts like me and Nathan do sometimes where the eyes are a bit sunken and they're a few tired boys. But
I
no,
think he was keen, so maybe that could be.
it might be coming out even earlier, the podcast, which is good for you at home. It comes out even
Exactly.
earlier. Today, again, another more relaxed one. Next week's the big one. That's our ladder predictions, which
Yeah,
is what the whole year is
be able to
about.
recap the actual competitive football as well.
Exactly. Finally, something to, because obviously United play City in the Community Shield. We'll talk about that. We'll talk end of preseason. We'll chat all about preseason, I guess, next week when we're all
Yep.
here. See who did well, who did not do well. Because I think once we get the big eye, I know we've sort of done our personal clubs, but not much on everything else. Our predictions. We can do some more hypotheticals next week, and then we're into it.
Yep.
Literally crazy. It's gonna
Be recapping all the games.
yeah, we'll be back on it again. We'll be doing all the first weekend. I might do a live stream for the first weekend. We'll see how we go. But a lot of exciting stuff to come. This week, we've got top 10 current PL players, 5, I don't know how to put it, statements, early predictions, bold predictions.
Yeah.
We both went bold. We're going to
I
be...
think, there's a couple there that are like probably a lot of people might agree with, but there's a couple out there
I've
that
just
are
got two that are just-
absolutely bold and like,
But if it comes off,
yeah, exactly.
we're going to look $1 million.
A clip might be nice.
It could be
in
nice.
about 6 to 12 months' time.
Coming back and looking at it.
Yeah.
And then a few transfer news because there's a lot actually going on all of a sudden. Things are happening, which is
Exactly.
classic transfer window. Let's get into our top segment, which is top 10 current Premier League players.
Ooh.
It's always fun, this one. I think we'll come back to this again middle of the season because it will be very reactionary.
Yeah, definitely. From my point of view, and I think we can discuss this prior to going live, there's a few of those players that are still in that top 10
Yeah.
that probably won't be by the end of the year
Yeah,
due to
eventually.
age and
Yeah.
other things, but have just been such staples in the Premier League
have
for the
to.
last 5 years
Yeah.
that you feel their season last year was still good enough to keep them as a top 10 because you know what they're capable of.
Because there's some, we'll get to them, I guess, eventually, but there's some like Premier League great players here
Exactly.
that are like, the legs are going. But we'll wait and see. You want to get kicked off with your number 10 on your list?
So Saliba,
10. New
yeah,
face.
so based off last year, he should be higher, but he's only really had 2 good seasons now.
Getting
And
there, yeah.
really kicked on last season. His 2 seasons back was also really good, but he hasn't done it for 5-6 years. And I think when you get to the top 10 players in the Premier League, it's players that have either done it around the world for a long period of time,
Yeah.
or they've done it in the Premier League, and he's probably done neither. But I think coming in at number 10, he's probably only set to rise up this list as years to come.
Yeah. He's going to be a number 1 soon, I'm assuming, in 3 years' time. I went the other way. I went with Virgil van Dijk as number 10. I think I had him number 6 this time last year. So he's dropped a little bit, which is strange. I've been backing him all last season. I loved his season last year. I just feel like we're in this sort of moment where the next gen are coming through and the old gen are sort of just slipping out. And I feel like you could have him, I guess, anywhere from 7 to 10, I feel like, Virgil van Dijk, or maybe 6 to 10. He's an all-time great, one of the best centre-backs we've had in the league. But I think I've got another centre-back that I think is better, and I think there's a lot of young players and a lot of experienced players that are just ahead of him. But again, this top 10, you can put in any real order, I feel like, to base on your mood.
Yeah, definitely.
So he's my number 10 for me. Number 9's now.
So Declan Rice.
Nice, Decky.
So yeah, another great player that's only set to rise as years to come. But I think there's not really too much to say here, apart from the fact there's just probably better players ahead of him on this list.
yeah.
He's probably a little bit less like Saliba, and I'm not sure how high he does push up the list. He definitely does have the potential to hit that top 5.
Yeah.
But whereas I think with Saliba, there's probably a little bit less like consistency,
Yeah.
just due to his age. In comparison to Rice, Rice has shown it for a while, so it's probably just more. He's probably just not good enough for me at the moment to
Yeah.
crack that top, like 8, top 6, top 5
All over,
around
yeah.
that. Yeah,
We might have seen the best of Declan Rice. Maybe we're sort of getting at. I was close to being Declan Rice, but I ended up going with Bruno as my number 9. again, maybe a little personal favouritism. I don't know. There's two United guys on the couch and no one's complaining today.
Yeah.
I always say, talk about importance for your club, probably the most or second most important for their respective clubs. Captain, goals and assists, chance creation. He's always in the top for all those stats.
Yep.
Like you can't rule Breno out any of those stats. Maybe a little bit wasteful at times, and last year didn't help. He was playing bloody left back and CDM half the season. But this year, fingers crossed, if you get another centre mid in, then you guys, hey, you know, look at the young Collier and Mainu, maybe we'll see him finally just play at the 10, and maybe he goes back to one of those 15-goal, 10-assist seat. Like I've a sneaking spit. I'll come on to one of my points later on, but I have a feeling this could be a big Bruno year. So 9 for now, but I think he has potential to climb a bit higher this year.
Yeah, so moving on from that, I've got Bruno at number 8.
Bruno.
Yeah, so for me, probably one of those players that slipped a little bit down the list as in the probably past 2 seasons.
Yeah.
After probably being a top 3 player in the league.
Yeah.
Yep, and I think he still showed enough. He still shows how important he is to United and how important he is, like, in the whole league as a player. I think that we saw probably not as consistent throughout the year, but a 2-3 month patch where he literally he led United to very, very crucial wins in a time where it was probably seen where they could have finished probably even as low as 10th.
Yeah,
so
it could be
yeah, very interesting. But he definitely still is a top 10 player. He's done so much in the Premier League over the last 5 seasons. So
I think he would probably top. At one point in time, probably top 3 in the world. I'm going to be bold and say that.
Yeah,
there was a point in time
that,
where his goals and assists and like Champions League, like I think he could have been top 3 in the world at one point.
Yeah, definitely.
Everyone keeps saying De Bruyne, ahead of him, but when you look at some of the stats, he's actually.
Yeah, he was obviously a different player. Like
Yeah.
he's a more of an output player than
Yeah.
De Bruyne. De Bruyne can play that third man pass.
Yeah.
Whereas if it doesn't come from Bruno, usually United don't score because
score the
they
goals,
don't have that extra
Yeah.
player. But
Yeah. Interesting. It's a discussion to talk
definitely
about.
still on our list.
Yeah. And I went the other way around. I went Declan Rice at 8.
Yep.
Bit of personal fact. I love a bit of Declan Rice. Last season, I think it was a difference that Arsenal needed. Not quite enough to win their title, but elevated them again. But again, I don't know, I've said this a bit now. For some reason, I have a bit of a dodgy feel about Arsenal this season. I don't know if it's just like City are just that team, or I think other teams might come through. I don't think Arsenal will be either second or third, but I feel like it might not be the year that they'll push on. And maybe I'm just foresighting too much. But Declan Rice is a great player. Good in the Euros. I wasn't a big fan of him in the Euros. I think Cobby outshone him fair and square. But a lot to like about Declan Rice. Will he play the 8? Will he play the 6 this year? We'll have to wait and see if Marino
I think
joins.
touching on that because I didn't touch on this point. But to me, Declan Rice seems like the perfect player, obviously, for that number 6 role. But he just doesn't have that next step when you look at the other DMs around the world, like the Rodris of the world and stuff, where they're a lot more skillful and composed on the ball. And whereas I think Declan Rice is more of a simple player, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it probably doesn't allow him to push to the best players in the world category.
Yeah. Because you need that, like, I don't know how
flair. It's the flair.
It's like whatever Rodri has. I can't put it into a word. Whatever Rodri has, like.
Well, Rodri just has everything, which.
Yeah. But his ball control and Declan Rice ball control, there's not much difference, but Rodri just has that X factor.
Yeah.
That, like, he can make the pass from back there. I still think Declan Rice would be best at 8. I think because he can run both ways, box to box. I still reckon he's attacking output. We need to improve to be great at that. But as you said, I feel like he's still a great DM. But I feel like to make the distance up right now, maybe Marino coming in might be the difference.
I just don't know if he's capable of making that distance. I think he's hit the ceiling, and I think there's nothing. I think he'll be consistent at the ceiling he's hit. I just think that next step he just isn't capable of. I think he's
not that player.
Yeah, he's just not that player. Which I don't think there's anything wrong with because like, as an Arsenal fan, if you have Declan Rice, he's a top 10, as we're saying, Premier League player.
Yes, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
You take that.
Like you're taking that any day of the week. I'm just saying I don't think he can push to like the Rodris and the KDBs and those type of I just don't. I think you have to have that extra. That's when the extra skill factor comes involved, and I just don't think he has that. He's probably more of a traditional, like a Roy Keane, more traditional, like 6'8", than these more
This modern diet, yeah.
modern blokes, yeah.
Interesting. If they get Marino, I would like to see Declan Rice play the 8 and see if that works. Because Marino's literally the stereotypical DM. Like, break the play up, pass it around. Might be ability to rise him up the ladder. So that was my 8. Your 7.
Verge. So you've already mentioned him. Yeah, I think he's still a very good centre-back. And this year he actually picked it up.
Yeah,
which is why he still keeps himself in the top 10 because probably based off last year, if he continued that trajectory, he wouldn't be in the top 10 anymore. But he had a better season. He probably shied off as the season went on.
They all probably did,
Yeah, but I think he's still definitely a top 10 player and probably more so of what he's done in the past.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
I have a similar story. My number 7. This might sound not crazy to some people. I got Mo Salah 7, so quite low down.
Yeah.
He was fantastic first half of the year, but I have him sort of single-handedly. I'm pointing him out because he's their player. He's like their franchise guy. His downturn in form was a reason Liverpool, I feel, dropped off in the league. They were firing. Defensively, I think Virgil was really good coming back end. I think it was still good enough. I think the defense was good enough, but the goals just vanished for them. And yes, it's probably Nunez and yes, there's other guys as well. But Salah, for me, from his form at when we watched that live watch on versus Liverpool and Arsenal, where he was just cooking Zinchenko, and I was like, that was peak Salah just around Christmas time. Then come sort of end of February, March, it was when the little bit of drop off came. Then Liverpool just sort of capitulated in the league, and he's still a great player for me. And I still reckon Liverpool was worth keeping him. But I hear like where you and Flynn have come from, where like his best days have probably come and gone, right? So for that reason, and because there's a lot of good young players, I've got him quite low. I don't think I've had Mo Salah that low in age. He's sort of a top 4, top 5 in this generation for the whole way through. But right now, in the form he's had at the end of last season, and because he's a bit older, I've got him at 7 for me.
Yeah, so moving on from that, I've got him at 6.
Go to 6, okay, there we go.
Yeah, so a little bit higher, obviously. Yeah. And I think that's just due to the fact of what he's done in the Premier League for such a long, extensive period.
Yeah.
However, I think he's dropping down because of he's probably losing a little bit of those legs at the moment. He still had an amazing season, though. And
it's nuts.
I think my whole point on him leaving at the end of the year and him leaving is more because of the price tag they can receive
money
than his actual player. Because I think if he still plays, he probably still gets you those 15 Premier League goals, probably 10 assists, which is really good.
Yeah, really good,
But I just think that right now he's probably still at that, maybe not that peak value, but still got amazing value that every year that goes by, it's going to significantly drop.
Yeah.
He's not like 23 and he has an off season.
No.
He could have an amazing season. His value still drops down just because of his age.
Yeah, just because of his age, yeah.
And I think that new coach comes in, new identity. It's like, why not have my player, get that money in and make my signing?
It's a big one. Because in 4 weeks' time, we could be saying you should have sold him. Because if they start...
Yeah, definitely. I just think that, like, obviously you got to see who's around. But if you have an idea and you could get the amount you want, like, obviously if they're already offering 50 million, don't do it. Yeah. But if you could get in the 100 to 120 range for a 33-year-old Mo Salah...
Yeah, you
need to jump on that.
You're thinking, yeah.
Because it's only going to be down to 50, 60 next season. No matter how he does it, like, pretty much.
Because you'd probably think 1.5 good, like, Salah years, and then probably 2 of those, like, sort of just 10 goals.
I don't think it matters how long. Even if he has 2 amazing seasons in him, no one's going to pay 100 million at the end of this season for 1 good season, if you get what I'm saying. Right now, they could probably be still thinking, we can get 2, 3, especially goes down to the Saudi league. I don't know.
It's going to be a continual talking point here. All right, my 6, again, another one sounds ridiculous. Oh, KDB at 6, which sounds criminal. He missed a lot of last year with that injury.
Yeah.
And when he came back, he was still fantastic. Like, we saw the first game back, he did that like crazy assist to Oscar Bob. He's still phenomenal, like crazy good. I just feel like, again, me and my reactionary list, there's players right now that are killing it. They're like hitting their primes, smashing it. Even City players that were performing as the season went on. And he's still, for me, the best player in this Premier League's last 10 years. He is. He's
No,
that player.
I get where you're
Right
coming,
now, though,
I get where you're coming from. I just think that some of the players that you're going to have ahead
just haven't done it long enough.
just haven't done it long enough. And don't get me wrong, if we're going off last season,
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
players you're having ahead had a better
Yeah.
last season, definitely than
And-
KDB. But if you were to back
the
him in
balance
to go
of-
into this season, you're backing a fit KDB
Oh, yeah.
to have a
100%.
better season than these players, and he's done it for so long. So
It's been 7 years?
Yeah,
hasn't it?
that's what I'm-
it's been,
like-
yeah.
Bloke is hunting down Ryan Giggs' record.
Yeah. And it sounds ridiculous putting it. And maybe because I
Yeah.
And you know what? Coming on the next segment, I probably am counteracting myself, but at the moment, I got him 6, which sounds dumb,
Yeah.
but that's why I've got KDB. By the way, he could be number 1 at the end of this season again, because if he plays a full year and City go and just smash the league, there's no reason why he can't be number 1 for me.
All right.
You're number 5, top 5s. Have you done 6?
Yep.
Yep, so top 5s now. Who's your number 5?
Haaland.
Haaland, number 5.
Yeah, so another one now that could be much higher up the list, obviously. But I think when you get to this top 5, they can really be in pretty much any order, maybe
Yeah.
apart from number 1.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think 2 to 5, like really.
Take your pick.
Yeah, take your pick. But yeah, obviously he's coming to the Premier League, set the world on fire.
Yeah.
However, I just think he had a little bit of a down season. That's probably stopped him from taking that next step. And again, he's obviously young and he's probably going to be the number 1 soon.
Yeah.
But he still probably just hasn't done it for enough time to take some of these players above him. It's not that like his form or anything is off. He's probably been as good as anyone over his 2 seasons in the Premier League. It's just the fact that when you're talking about the best players and in the Premier League,
Yeah.
you have to think about, well, if these players are both done pretty similar over the last 2 seasons while Haaland's been there, well, I'm going to take the bloke that done it for the past 5 seasons.
Yeah.
That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah.
It might be the wrong way to look at it, but
It's true.
but yeah, but I think he's been exceptional. His first season he came in, like, arguably should have won the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, probably sure.
Arguably.
We can go back and forth that all day long.
Yeah, and then his second season, like, we say he had a fall off, but I think he still finished with 27 or 28 PL goals,
Golden
which
Boot,
is, insane, and a golden boot. But, yeah, I think if he had that season he had in the first season again, we would probably put him number 1.
Oh, yeah, because that was ridiculous. It's just because he continued just to keep going, goal.
And it was like, there was a reason they won, like, and they would have won that Champions League, and they
Yeah.
would have won all these stuff
Because
with
of what he
him,
did,
with
yeah.
him in the team.
Yeah.
Like, obviously he didn't score in those finals, but he wasn't in the team.
Yeah.
They didn't win Champions League. He was in the team.
Yeah.
Like, you have to take
That's going in consideration. a little
into
bit, yeah.
consideration.
I've gone ballsy. The start of the young fellas at number 5. I went William Saliba at number 5, which is
Yeah.
it's sort of like it's weird because you can put Verge. I could go Saliba 10, Verge 5. I feel like you could do it
Yeah.
either way. And my list seems to be compared to yours heavily sort of based on the last 18 months more, and that's sort of I guess stereotypical pressing because I'm a bit of an 18 months in a guy on my list. He's been fantastic. I know people get saying Gabriel. Flynn said it. A few Arsenal fans said Gabriel's been better. I still think if I'm picking the centre back from Arsenal, I'm picking Saliba. I just feel like that's the way it is. He wins his duels. He's quick. He's calm. And yes, it's not Premier League, but the Euros, he was like insane for France. First tournament for France.
He's the Rolls Royce, which is
Yes.
like the way they like.
And it's funny because I normally like if I look personal United wise, when I look at Ferdinand and Vidic, Ferdinand's a Rolls Royce, but I always prefer Vidic. It's strange, but I just think in terms of a Rolls Royce, he does do the dirty
But
work
that
as
might
well.
be the reason as well that when you look at your own club, you appreciate something maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, like Flynn and Gabriel. Like,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
could be, yeah, but I just think this guy's like, this is one of the players I could see going and being number 1, like in the Prem. I feel like he's got
Yeah.
that, like Virgil did for that season probably, where he was number 1. Like he was ridiculous. Like there was him and Diaz here before, then he just went, nah, he's a number 1 player. And then he did that little drop off and stuff like that. But
Do you think that will be a little bit hard though with Gabriel next to him? And with like now that how much depth they have in defence.
It could be a thing, but we saw Ruben Diaz be number 1 player in the Prem with like John Stones.
Yeah,
and
but
Ake coming across.
it wasn't a current John Stones.
No.
And it
But-
wasn't.
We know how Pep plays, and Arteta plays very similar.
Yeah, I just think what I'm
The
just
quality
trying to
of player, I
say
know,
is
is-
the quality of player that is the number 2
Is
is
ridiculous.
higher than the quality of player when Virgin Diaz was there.
Yeah,
as the
and
number
that,
2.
and that does matter. I just think this might be. We've been blessed to talk about like
Yeah.
our generation in terms of centre backs we've watched. But I think this is like, he's like 23, 24?
Yeah, very young.
We've got 5 years without an injury, like touch wood, of him just being ridiculous and then still being consistent from there on in. But 5 years of like peak Saliba. Like, we're not even getting to this. Is what's scary about Arsenal. They're not in their peak yet. That's the real like worrying sign for other teams. I think he out of all these players, because of how consistent he's been for 2 years, because he's been so young and he's sort of the non-captain captain, if you know what I mean. Like, you feel like he's the leader on the pitch, and he's like 23. He's playing for the French team. First tournament was fantastic for them. I think this guy's ridiculous, and maybe a bit of personal favouritism again, but I think he has the capability to make that number 1 spot. He's in the years to come, but we have to wait and see. But he's my number 5 for me. And again, my top 5 or 2 to 5 could be rotated on any day, I feel like, as well. 4.
Saka.
Yeah, I have him as well, 4, yeah.
Yeah, so again, it's just another hard one. Like, there's a couple around this area that could be interchanged, but he's amazing, and he's another one that's probably going to be in that top 3 very soon. If not, you could argue that he should be in the top 3 right now.
Yep, yeah.
I've just put him 4 just again because I think the players above him are a little bit better.
Yep.
Maybe some of them time might be up by the end of the season. So who knows?
Very interesting.
Yeah, so who knows? But yeah, I think that Saka really has that. Like, he's a how can I explain this? He's quite a traditional footballer, but in the same way, he's also got the modern flair.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's traditional in the sense of he's like, he plays right by the touchline.
Hugs it.
Yeah, like the olden day players did, like the Beckhams of this world. But then he also is like that modern day, like Salah type player where he can cut inside, which he's like multi-dimensional, which probably makes him how the player he actually is. There's not too much more to add on him apart from, I could see this bloke here being PFA Player of the Year 3-4 times, to be honest. So especially if Arsenal go win a Premier
if they win it, it'll be him, right? Like,
it'll probably be him or Saliba.
Take your pick. The thing I'll say about Saka, I think he's probably the most consistent, or one of at least, or okay. As a number 1, he's probably my top 5, the most consistent player. Do I think? I think he's like best of the best though. That's what separates him from my few I've got.
I would agree
in front
with
of
that.
him.
I think his ceiling at the moment, he could have is just probably not as high.
Like, if I'm taking on like the aliens, I'm picking like these guys at their best over his best.
Yeah,
because yes, he's magic and he's consistently magic, but his 10 out of 10 just falls short of the next.
Well, I think the best way to say it is he would produce way more 8 out of 10 performances than probably anyone in the league. Yeah, maybe bar one.
Yes,
he'd produce
one guy.
But there's one guy. But he'd produce more 8 out of 10 performances than anyone. So he's way more consistent. He's always got a goal or an assist in him.
Absolutely.
But I think what you're trying to get at, and I would agree with, is he probably doesn't. His 10 out of 10 performance doesn't happen as often as the players above him.
I think they maybe not as often and maybe not as magical as the ones I've got above. That's all. But that's not shying away because these guys I've got my top 4 and 5 are just ridiculous. So
all right,
that's both our 4s. Your 3.
Foden
at 3. Another youngster at 3.
Yeah. So another one that, like, obviously he was Player of the Year. Yeah. Like, amazing. Like, coming for that number 1 position. But again, I think the reason that he's gone above Saka is what we just...
That's why I had in my mind.
What we just explained. I think his peak performance on a day like that United game, I would say that United game is better than what Saka could do. Saka can rip apart United. I'm not saying he can't. 100%. He can rip apart City.
Yeah.
But that game was just like... It was just turned on its head. United were 1-0 up. And it was like, well, there's no KDB playing.
They were struggling.
Foden steps up and like takes on players. It's just that individual brilliance. Like, obviously not to the degree, but you can compare it to like the Messis and the Hazards.
It felt like that in that game.
Yeah. So I think that's just where I get it from. Like, Foden obviously had a better season than Saka, but probably prior to this season, Saka had been the better player.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say.
And it's very, very much anyone could argue that Saka should be higher on this list. I think just for me and for you, we've put him ahead just because that Saka is there. They've like the
they're touching each other.
I just think Foden on a day can rip apart a game more than Saka can.
Yeah, that's pretty. I'll expand on that, but
Yeah.
I got Haaland 3.
Okay.
So Foden will come up, but I got Haaland 3. Again, and I've sort of taken this viewpoint on a lot of players, like Darwin and like Jackson. I've somehow been those two guys' corners. But if you just forget the like 4-game or 5-game or whatever, like with the injuries, that sort of 3-month goalless stretch. Like if you just, I know that's hard to
Yeah,
get out,
I know, but it's saying hard to forget that.
and it is hard to forget that. But you just look at the sheer amount of goals around that. You're like, how is this? Like we're so critical on him because that season was just goal, 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 goal. What he did last season was clumps of goals. He was just scoring in massive clumps, and that could be an advantage or could be disadvantage. I understand that. But in terms of ripping a game apart, when City, they used to just they'd be able to walk some games, but now that he's there, they feel like they walk every game but those sort of like big 3. And that's the difference. If Haaland wants to be that number 1, number 2 player, he impacts those big
So I
games
got
for
2
me.
questions for you because I'm not
No.
like saying he
yeah.
shouldn't be there because I've put in 5. So it's not that much of a
Yeah,
difference.
it's around that place.
But the first question I have is his lack of performance in big games.
Yeah. That's what for me stops him going for number 1. I think his other
I
performances
think he could
get
go
into
to 2
the
because of that.
Oh,
1 would be hard.
Yeah, 1 would be hard.
Okay. And my second question is, do you not feel though that when Haaland doesn't score now, there's a little bit of a problem? And that's probably why City were on catch up
Last season.
Obviously, he started scoring again, so they won the league.
Yeah.
But it was for him to start scoring again.
And this is where I'm going to take that other. You can say the other thing where like, that's how important he is though. Like when he does score, because I think a few back, actually probably not valid, but last year they drew to Crystal Palace, but years before, like I think like a Palace or a Wolves might go there and like nick a point. Whereas nowadays Haaland's there, so they'll be 5-0 up at half time.
No, I'm agreeing with you, but all I'm trying to say is, I feel like when Haaland doesn't score,
and that's valid.
but he
last
plays
season,
shit. Whereas you look at like the likes of Foden and Saka, who I've put higher. If they don't score, they don't play shit necessarily.
They can impact games.
They can impact it.
And that's the thing though for me. I've taken this X factor difference maker player like Haaland, who either is 0 or hero, where Saka's a 70% no matter what, and maybe 10 out of 10. So that's why I'm going. But I just think in terms of, we have not, like this is like unseen ground. He's broken Van Nistelrooy's record. Like, again, I didn't watch it live as a kid, but we know what the impact Van Nistelrooy made when he came to United. Yeah. Everyone thought that would never be like, or never be equal to top. He's gone and obliterated that. Think back to the first season, he just blew every team out. He's scored into every single team in the Premier League. Like, he just does it. He just finds, and when he plays shit, sometimes he just finds like a tap in on the goal line. He's just a goal machine, fantastic with Dortmund. If you really have to extrapolate, he's been great throughout. The only, I guess, real negative on him, big games, and also hasn't had to take Norway to a big tournament yet. Who knows, they might do that in the future. That's the only thing. Can he lift a City team when they're down? We haven't quite seen that yet. And that's probably, for me, that holds him back from being the top player.
I just think, as well, when you look at that Norway thing, obviously he has a lot of goals for Norway, but there are a lot of them against shit teams.
Yes, and that's we're holding him
The problem with him is, I feel like he needs people for him to play good.
Yeah. KDB's missing, he's struggling.
Okay, No, not necessarily because City's team's got so much depth, but he needs people around him. Like, if you go chuck a few of these players into a mid-table team, I feel like they would have a lot more output than Haaland would, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because he needs, I know a lot of strikers do, but he needs those players. Like, okay, you look at a Harry Kane, I don't think he could do what Harry Kane did at Tottenham.
No. And let's get back to that debate, because when Harry Kane was here, did I have him? I think I had him.
I'm not sure.
But that was a bit debate that whole season we did that first season on the podcast. That was the biggest debate was who's the better team? Who would you prefer? And I said, if I'm starting a team, I remember saying this, if I started a team, I'd rather Kane. But then like, in terms of just like just take everything out, just as a player, you want a goal?
No, you're completely right. I'm just saying.
It makes sense.
A few flaws.
There's flaws.
His build-up play is atrocious.
No, he doesn't exist.
He doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
Like,
it's zero.
I think Roy Keane put it to perspective.
The League
Two player. But really, he's a striker.
He finds
City want goals.
Yeah.
that's his job. He
Yeah.
completes his job. The end.
Yeah, and then I guess to finish off, if Arsenal get a striker like Haaland, maybe Saka looks like the best player in the league because he gets more assists. That's all I'll say on that, because Saka, again, easy. Saka and Haaland's a weird one because they do different things. Same as Foden.
Yeah,
They're
it's
already
different. Like one has more output, but
Yeah.
one is more
Important, I feel like, yeah.
and more
Yeah.
consistent.
It's a funny debate.
Yeah.
We go to number 2. Obviously, we'll get to number 2.
KDB.
I'll do KDB.
So yeah, I know
Football heritage.
You've put him down the list.
I think I've
but
obliterated him. That sounds like
Bloke,
pathetic.
in my opinion, has been the best player in the league for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Probably.
Yeah.
Well, when did he come? 2015, 16.
Whenever he came into the league, he's been the best player.
Yeah, he's been the best player since, and I don't think an injury off one season, because he was still the best player with Haaland.
Yeah.
Those two last season, what they were doing together. So I don't think an injury off one season drops him so far down.
Yeah,
the list.
yeah,
When
yeah.
you go look at the fact that like a Verge is still in both of our lists.
Yeah.
And I know he had a better season this year, but he's been off the cliff for off what his best was for 3 seasons now.
Yes, off his best. Off his
Best for
Yeah.
3 seasons now, and he's still in our top 10.
Mm.
It'd be bad by me to drop
Oh, yeah.
KDB right down the list
Yeah.
if I have Verge still in my
Still in
list.
there, yeah.
Even like similar to a Salah, like he has been better than Salah in my opinion.
Over the years.
Yeah, over
100%,
the years,
Yeah.
Salah was probably a little bit better this year, but
Yeah.
was he better or did he just play more?
Yeah, true.
Because
Yeah,
when
literally,
KDB
yeah.
played, he probably
was-
played at the level that Salah played
Yeah.
at either way.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think, that's just hard. I think I do like my historic players more so than
And I feel like
the more recent. I go away a little bit from the recency
I
bias.
should look at the list. And probably at least get him 5th, because like Saliba, it's like 2 years. So yeah, maybe De Bruyne goes 6th. But I'm staying by. I'll stick
I'd
by
even
my-
still
by
say
my-
on Foden. Foden he wasn't poor, but he only took that next step this season.
That's true. Well, that's because he's my number 2.
Yeah.
I think it sort of makes sense, because if you swap them around, we end up sort of a somewhat similar
Yeah.
list. This is my view on Foden. I was a point I was going to say on regards to your last, but what I do want to say is this was probably our first year of Foden, seeing him play consistently.
And at his role.
And as well, but we still knew he was great out of his role and on the limited time seasons prior. And to be honest, the Cole Palmer transfer might have been the best thing for everyone. It means it's all focused on Foden. So he didn't have so much overloading, and obviously Palmer did with Chelsea. We got to see the first season of Phil Foden, where he wants to play, and he had to take the mantle off De Bruyne because De Bruyne was out for a large period. And despite that time being a little bit rocky, City, they always went to Foden. And that's what I remember. You talk about the United game, absolutely valid. I think about Brentford, and I think about last game of the season. We all sat here thinking, we might, fingers crossed, have a title race. What did Foden do in like 2 minutes? He whacked one left foot, top bin, swerved it in. And like,
Oh, no, you're completely right. And Foden is
It was
amazing.
ridiculous.
And that's where the Saka-Foden convo
yeah,
came
they
in.
came back into it, yeah.
I just think for me, it was one good season.
It's one good team. It's
Like
one
the
good
bloke was the best player, and I'm agreeing he was the best player last season.
Yeah.
It's just for me, with all these great players that have done it for so long, I struggle. He was the best player last season. Well, this list to me isn't who was the best player
It's
last season.
the best
and
five,
I get where
yeah,
you're coming
yeah.
from, because we're going to come back in 12 months' time,
we might be-
and I'll be where you're
Yeah.
where you're saying
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And if not, he'll be top 3 100%.
I just think, I was just amazed because again, we haven't seen much of him. We knew we all know about Foden.
Well,
We've all
what did I
experienced
put him either way? Third. So,
third. Yeah, it's not far away.
Yeah.
I was just, maybe it's just amazement. Like it takes a lot to take De Bruyne as well. Maybe that's why I'm giving him all that props, because we know how good De Bruyne is. We know how good of a carry
Just
he's been
another
for that team.
question though, and it's a weird one, but start of the season, Alvarez did a very similar
He did.
role to what Foden did in the back half of the season, and probably didn't do it to the level Foden did, but
was
not that far
Well, not that
off.
far, yeah.
Yeah,
But then the debate has to be about Alvarez as well, because we'll talk about transfer in a little bit, but there
Yeah,
might be
I know.
rumours him away. He might become a number one player, like a number one or around the top 5s if he gets his chance to shine. Because right now he's like sometimes a 10, sometimes left, sometimes right, sometimes
Yeah.
the striker. Like he's all over the place. But we see for Argentina, he's a great player, important player. We see in Champions League for City, he's a big player. Like he's someone maybe, if we got on talent, a talent list, it's got to be close. Like, he's going to be close to some of these top players. Like, you think about Foden, Saka's talent. Alvarez's talent is up there, or sometimes better on their day. So that is obviously different. But I just think, like, going back to Foden, the last 2 seasons where we saw this little 20-minute, spell was all playing in the Champions League in rotation. We knew how good he was. Could we see it consistently? We saw it last year. So again, it's one season, but I was just super, super impressed with what he did in that season. We had to take the mantle off De Bruyne. And it feels like now that he's got it, he might share the load a little bit with De Bruyne because of the legs and because of how City will.
I think it'll be a bit of rotation. Like, don't be surprised in the weaker games if they both play in midfield.
Yeah.
And then the stronger games will be like mid-game they switch between
around,
the left and
middle and right, and they'll just swing it
exactly.
around. It's exciting to see. But then it means number one is the almighty Rodri.
Yeah, no debates here. Bloke's been doing this now for 4 or 5 seasons.
Ballon d'Or Rodri's could be a thing.
Like Ballon d'Or Rodri is a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
100%. Like, if City won the Champions League this season instead of last, it was guaranteed.
Guaranteed, yeah.
He's been absolutely insane. And you always think about Rodri as that real stalwart in front of the defence.
Yeah.
That's amazing in terms of his like build-up play and like that maestro through the midfield that brings the ball from one side to the other, changes the direction. But you forget every time his contribution, his goal contribution. 17 goal contributions last season. 8 goals, 9 assists.
That's
Ridiculous. And then we're forgetting what he did for Spain.
Won the Euros with Spain.
Won the Euros, like, amazing. The Nations League the year before.
Yeah, won that as well.
Like, he's absolutely incredible. In the Champions League for City, and we're talking about Haaland, who, like, is a goal scorer.
Yeah.
Rodri scores in every single final that ever exists.
You know him. He's there.
Like,
Always there.
Rodri, I don't get it. Like, the goals, he just pops up in every final.
It's ridiculous.
Like, he over the last 5 years, there'd be a big debate to say he's number one in the world.
Clutch player, yeah. Easy.
Like, obviously, you probably still have, like,
Maybe Messi.
creeping Messi.
But
that's only as of now. 6 months goes. Messi's going out of that one spot, no matter what he does in the world, really, pretty much.
A few things. He took my role off Gundogan. I labelled Gundogan like the
clutch.
The April killer, whatever I could label it. He took that role last year. He smashed that. Big goals. Only defeat is in an FA Cup to like the most inspired Man United I've seen in like 3 years. So that's the only time he's lost. He took, we start the Euros. I kept saying this. No one had them in the top 5 at all. Not even close. They had Portugal, we had France, we had England, Germany. We had like Netherlands. No one ever talked about Spain because Spain was a few years away. But everyone, when you previewed the tournament, I remember everyone saying, well, they've got Rodri. they've got Rodri. And you look at that midfield, Fabian Ruiz, okay player at PSG though. So he's a bit, we don't know much about him.
It's a bit hard because he did have an amazing Euros.
But this is to my point though. Was it them playing great or was it Rodri making them look great?
That's the thing you look at. And
he makes everyone better.
Even for City, probably another benefit for him is we've always seen him as this great defensive player.
Yeah.
But the fact that now we've got the Stones dropping, like
into midfield,
coming into midfield, it's probably allowed him to progress that touch more.
Yeah.
And we've seen now his output in front of goals is insane. Like,
it's ridiculous.
And it's not just his outputs, it's when he scores.
Yeah.
Like, bloke doesn't pop up against, like, Luton Town at home for a 5-0 win. He doesn't get those little goals.
No.
Every single one of his goals is a goal that's important in those 1 or 2-0 wins, in a late goal. Like,
in a final.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And all outside the box, just peppering the goal.
He loves them.
And his assists, his balls. Like, that's where we go from Rice to Rodri. The bloke can just do everything.
There's no hole in his game.
Like, I'm telling you, if you wanted to play Rodri as a number 10,
go ahead.
He could play it easily. And I'm convinced he'd score 10 to 15 goals, have 10 to 15 assists.
He's got, I said, the word I used throughout the Euros was undescribable. Like, it's not even a word, but undescribable. I couldn't describe what he does, but he's a winner. Like, you talk about Rodri equals winning. Like, there's no, you can't pinpoint it because everything's good.
He's a winner, but it's not just that to me as well. He's got like the mixture of a couple of players. Like, he's got like the maestro of Pirlo, but then he can also like, his defensive output is better. Like, obviously probably not to the degree in the attacking, but he's got that. He's so good in attack.
I think he's giving, like, this could be really, really rogue, but I think he's giving off Busquets, Xavi, and Iniesta in terms of like he's got what they all had. He's got the Busquets calmness in midfield from deep to see the pass. He can break the game up as well. He's got Iniesta's smarts on the ball to be the drop into a little hole, play a little pass. He's getting the goals in his game like what Xavi had in his game as well. He's like the best of all three of them.
Well, it's crazy because
He's got them all.
we've been talking about like the best midfielders in the Prem, and we've always been talking about, does KDB knock off one of the three?
Yeah. What does
But
Rodri do?
like Rodri's probably been as good as KDB in the Prem.
Especially in this sort of second iteration of City.
Yeah.
Like since Liverpool got that title, it sort of felt like Rodri's been that lead. KDB's always there. I'm saying 1A, 1B
definitely.
stuff.
But the thing that Rodri's going to have that KDB doesn't is he led them to the Champions League.
Yeah.
I don't know if KDB did as much. He was that guy that led them
And
then
Rodri's a
scored
big
in
game guy.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, they could both be in that list because now you're starting to, like, for a long time, you're like, there was no midfielders that really came through.
Both. You can whack both in there.
Yeah, that were, like, taking it off those big three.
Yeah.
The mantle was, like,
Yeah. It was
stuck.
locked away, yeah.
But, like, both of them now, it's like a conversation. And really, when you look at some of those players in that list, like a Roy Keane, Roy Keane was an amazing leader, but you'd have to say Rodri is a better player.
Yeah.
He's a more skillful player. And he can do the same defensive output that Roy Keane can do.
Yeah.
So,
He's a skilled Roy Keane. He's like,
and I know he's not in that big three, but he's definitely considered amongst
he's always
the big
put in those
midfielders.
teams as well, and like
he's always put in
ultimate
teams.
Premier
And
League
as an out-and-out DM, I don't think there's ever been better. Because you obviously got Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, but they weren't out-and-out DMs.
Yeah, sort of eights and tens, and
Like, when you think about the likes of, like, a Vieira and a Roy Keane, like, he tops them.
No, I think he gets better than both. Easy, yeah. I generally reckon, like, obviously generations change. That's why we're seeing more skilled. But in terms of skilled midfielders, like the Swiss Army knife, he's got everything.
Yeah.
Every part of his game right now is 10 out of 10. And it's been probably for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, I feel like
10 out
you
of 10.
chuck the bloke a striker and he'll
You'll
score
find a
you
way
goal.
to tap a few tap-ins, few
Yeah,
headers.
but he's
like-
played centre-back before. Like,
He is Swiss Army knife. He goes everywhere. He does everything well. And City, like I said, it's probably, you can probably look at it and take a look back. I've never really thought of it like this, but the first era of City is De Bruyne's team. It's just clearly him. The first sort of 3 to bit years was him. Liverpool win the title. Since then, it's been De Bruyne, but it's almost felt like De Bruyne 1B, Rodri 1A.
Yeah.
He's carried through that win streak. He's been more available. And now he's doing it with Spain. Like, it's like you got to think about it. He made Laporte's playing in Saudi. I know he played fantastically well, but we've got to think, with Rodri in front of him, does that make him look 10 times better?
It's a bit like we've talked about. It's just that extra confidence. We've talked about it with goalkeepers before.
Man United, stuff like that as well, yeah.
And I've been big on it, like, on those, having a goalkeeper that you know is going to save a lot is, to me, more important than the shots, than one that's really good with his feet. Not because they aren't better for the build-up, but it's just when you don't have the ball. And it's the same with Rodri.
Yeah.
Knowing that they got to get their ball. They got to come through Rodri first to then get to us.
Yeah.
It's like that extra calmness. And it's like, balls into the box. Well, Rodri's going to worry about the number 10. So all our job is, we don't have to worry about a Danny Olmo like you saw at Spain, peeling out and running at us. Because we know that Rodri is going to stop that. There is no number 10 that's gonna be our problem. So we've got one, it literally dies off any responsibilities that centre-backs have to only them having to do their job. Whereas a lot of other players you look at, like, sometimes that 10 can get the better of the DM.
Yeah, easy. You can see that a lot.
Yeah. And once that happens, and then the worst fear as a centre-back, the worst possible fear is a 10 running at you, then you having to press, and a striker can run in behind.
Yeah.
That is the worst fear ever. When you know you're not going to have that fear, well, you've got two of you to mark a striker. It ain't that hard.
Close the spaces off, close the channels.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. The best thing I can say as well to close it all out, Man City lose when he doesn't play. So
Exactly.
That's basically the
They've already had one loss.
biggest compliment, and that's it.
Yeah.
He's the guy. Do you want to run through your list from bottom to top?
Yeah, so I've got Saliba at number 10, Rice at 9, Bruno at 8, Verge at 7, Salah at 6, Haaland at 5, Saka at 4, Foden at 3, KDB at 2, and Rodri at 1.
A lot of Man City. And I'm Virgil 10, Bruno 9, Declan Rice 8, Mo Salah 7, KDB 6, Saliba 5, Bukayo Saka 4, Erling Haaland 3, Foden 2, and Rodri number 1. Unanimous winner, Rodri. And I'm assuming Flynn would have gone the same way as well, to be honest. All right, in the middle here, we should take a little bit about transfers real quick. There's actually been a bit going on.
Huge.
There's been a bit going on. Let's talk about what happened literally last week after the podcast went up, because you messaged me straight away. Pascal Gross now to Dortmund.
Off to Dortmund. Childhood club, apparently.
Of course, a childhood club. Of course, there's a childhood club.
Well, Brighton released on theirs. Pascal Gross has decided to move to Dortmund, and he's been his childhood dream.
Move. We'll talk about it more next week, I think, because we'll talk about ladder predictions. But Brighton's a worry now. You lose Pascal
I'll touch
Gross.
on that on the
There's
next
something
segment.
coming up. Yeah, no, I think I have to a bit of discussion there, but we just cover it quickly here. They lose Pascal Gross, new manager,
And he was their best player.
best player. Solly March coming back from a season-long injury.
Yep.
Estupiñán didn't look much better when he came back from his injury last year. Lewis Dunk's aging. Is Evan Ferguson going to perform this season? We don't know.
They've got a couple of young players, and you're like, if they can kick on and perform,
If they
might
fine.
be all
They're
right.
fine. But on last season, worrying signs.
It was a bit of like a different season for Brighton. Like, it felt like those young players that have in the past, like they found this gem of a youngster, they'd usually like go and kick on.
Yeah.
They just did it last
It
season.
wasn't happening.
So it'll be interesting to see.
It's very interesting. Because I thought Emile Smith-Rowe or something like that would be a good signing for them to try and just revitalise the club. But it seems like they're really not taking a step to get some money in there.
We do say that, but they still somehow like what are they finishing 11th?
Yeah, they were close enough.
Yeah,
they're not
exactly,
that far off.
And very close to like the 8th position. Like,
And I think I'll do a reaction video to this actually. I'm going to do another solo video about that. Chat GPT, there's been going around like the Chat GPT predicted Premier League. They've got them 12th. So like, according to AI, they're not that far off it. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't that far off it. But there's just going to be a little bit of worrying signs. So last season 11th and only 1 point behind Crystal Palace. So I thought they had a great year. So they know how to get it done, but new manager as well. So there'll be a lot of moving pieces to keep in mind. So that's a big move for Pascal Gross away from the Premier League.
Can I touch on one I'm not sure if you've covered?
Go on.
Gallagher.
Well, I was about to get on that. Gallagher now.
It was only 6 minutes before we started.
Oh, just then.
Yeah. So
is he staying or is he moving?
No, Gallagher has agreed a deal with Atletico.
Here we go, confirmed.
Yeah, 40 million, I think it was. I think the problem with that deal was Gallagher agreeing to the terms because I think there was a wage cut or something.
Well, this is what I had initially because I hadn't seen this before it came on.
Yeah.
It was a agreement between the clubs because Chelsea had agreed the fee, Atletico agreed the fee.
Yep.
Atletico had then gone and agreed a fee with Valencia's Guerrero just in case.
Yeah.
Fabrizio reported yesterday, but essentially they got the deal done. So that's big for...
Well, yeah, it looks like
there
it.
You go.
So I'll actually see if I can get it up
What
because I was reading it just before, but my understanding was he agreed to Atletico's terms, which he didn't want to agree to first. So let's have a quick look at this, but I know it was quite recent. Yep, here we go. So it's exclusive. Conor Gallagher has just said yes to Atletico Madrid contract terms. After long negotiations, Gallagher accepts Atletico bid with late night talks crucial to get his final green light. 5-year contract for Gallagher, verbally agreed as he had the possibility to extend his contract to Chelsea. But he's accepted Atletico Madrid's 40 million transfer fee package on a contract valid until 2029.
Big for Atletico, big get for them.
It does say, here we go, almost there.
Almost, and not confirmed. Here we go, sort of settled there. I've got two things to say about this.
Yep.
One, I think it's quite harsh by how they've managed this by Chelsea. Like, yes, Conor Gallagher, we take the mick out of him a bit. We should have been a bit of a joke player on this channel a little bit. But, he was their best midfielder last season. I think we can, Caicedo not there, Enzo not there for me. Obviously, Lavia didn't play. So, the way they sort of treated it, I don't really feel good about it. The way they sort of got rid of him. I think a really good Atletico player, by the way. That's my next point. I think
definitely
he suits Atletico and Simeone to a T. A little bit more progressive than Koke and Saul, who I think are both being phased out a bit. So he's got a little bit more attacking than them, but he's got that snapping nature, energizer in there, break the play up. I just think the way Chelsea sort of treated it was a bit.
Do you think
rubbish.
so? I think it is a bit rubbish because he's definitely a player that could have benefited Chelsea this season.
Yeah.
But do you not think for Marseca that it's something like I've got this type of game style. He doesn't fit it.
Yeah.
So for him, it's a bit like United with McTominay. I know it's a different probably caliber of player. Gallagher's probably better than
McTominay, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a bit like that. I think they should have more treated it like that. Well, you're not going to be starting.
No.
but you could have an influence off the bench.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think Gallagher would have been happy with that either way.
Well, that's the thing. I think they promised him squad player, not bench, but just squad. So they're going to be around the place. And I get it because Maresca wants that ball player invert. He likes to invert.
Yeah.
I just think it could have been handled a bit better. And he obviously wanted to stay at Chelsea because he really wanted these wages to be matched. I think that's sort of code for I want to stay at the club. And he could have been valuable. But I guess if you got Lavia coming back, and I put in my video, I'm hoping Enzo finally hits the
Enzo
ground.
should suit the Marseca type game.
He needs to be the guy.
But
has to
he
be.
should suit that type.
He should. But we've said that for a year and a half now.
Definitely.
He should be the guy. It sort of boils back though. You go back, Pochettino apparently partly got sacked because he liked Gallagher as well, and the club didn't want to go with that style. That's what I heard initially, is that style he was trying to implement with like Gallagher being fundamental in the mix-up wasn't what they wanted.
Yeah.
So that's why I sort of faced Pochettino out. So it is sort of like Gallagher was the like head in the chopping block, sort of felt like. Whereas I think like the Sterlings or even your Jacksons could have been those sort of.
Oh, definitely. I think getting rid of them would have been way more important. But also, if you're Chelsea and you're getting 40 million,
I'm about to say that's
Gallagher,
ridiculous. That's amazing.
You start running.
take the money and run away with that. So yeah, that's a big. I didn't realize that happened this morning. So that's good to see. So yeah, so Gallagher is Atletico. Good move for I guess the club.
The only question I ask is Drewsbury Hall
He's
not
start,
Gallagher 2.0?
I feel like he's more of an attacker. He's more of a number 10.
I know,
got
but
more goals in his
he's
game.
still like that. I don't think he's that skillful and creative of a player.
I think there's a lot of players in that role because you think Cole Palmer, I think initially should end
play
up
the
with a 10.
Yeah.
Nkunku is a false 9 or 10. Jackson is looking like a winger / like a false 9 as well.
Yeah, you really want to be playing with either Lavia, Caicedo, and Enzo, swapping between those three. I think Enzo would take the 8 because he'd be more creative than playing Lavia and Caicedo. You might as well bring Jose Mourinho back.
Park it up.
Yeah, so I think it'll be like Caicedo / Lavia playing over those two positions, and then Enzo, Cole Palmer, and that sounds like a very, very good midfield if you can get them firing.
And then Nkunku sort of plays in the middle for me, but then Shrewsbury Hall is that number 10 that basically becomes a striker. Like that's the player he sort of like he roams into the box, will make late runs. The stats last
I
season
think he's
were
happy
crazy.
to play Cole Palmer off the right wing.
I don't know if he's happy to, but he's brought Shrewsbury Hall over. His best mate probably.
But Shrewsbury Hall's come from Leicester. He's probably not
And-
pushing to start as much as probably Gallagher was.
But we say this a lot. Players have their guys, right?
It's different though.
But you say it's different, it'll be ridiculous. I'll laugh at it because it sounds laughable. But I would not be surprised if match day 1, it's in Nkunku, Shrewsbury Hall, Palmer, and like a Noddy Madueke, something like that, or whoever they want, maybe even Sterling.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh no,
Is it right?
I
No.
don't disagree with you. I wouldn't be surprised either.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a little bit different when you see other players, other coaches come from mid-table teams to one coach coming from a championship.
Yeah.
I know they got promoted, don't get me wrong, but it's still you've seen so many times where championship players have dominated, and like for example, Ahmed, I know he's actually kicking on.
Yeah, he'll surely be.
Yeah, but there's other players like Fabio Cavallo, Armstrong,
Yeah.
Mitrovic, and they're not players to play for Chelsea.
No, they're played for mid-table or even relegation teams. So
Like, you got to do it in the Premier League first. And I'm not saying he can't do that, but I could see his progression being you've got to wait your time a little bit.
Wait your turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. That'll be another interesting point. We'll maybe talk about that a little bit later on as well. All right. If ESR was confirmed. We sort of talked about last week. So he's there at Fulham. Now, the big news at City is Ederson's now staying because LETF signed Rakovic from Mallorca. But then here's the big one. Julian Alvarez, the green light's been allowed for clubs to bid on him if he wants to leave. But City don't want because I think there was an initial bid from someone for around 60 million and they laughed that off. So they're looking, you're thinking 80, 90, 100 million euros.
He probably is worth it though.
I would say he is. But any club wanted.
You see what he does
that.
always for Argentina. You even see what he does for City
When he plays.
when he gets the chance. And
Yeah.
he's actually really never got the chance to play his actual position either. So he's playing 10 or left wing and still dominating.
Yeah.
I just don't
I'd be
know
scared to see what would happen.
like who was the 60 million bid from?
I thought it was Atletico. But they're not going to bid that now because they just bought
No, but
Gallagher.
I'm just wondering, like,
I tell you what, Barca might have stuffed up. Because he's a very bold shot.
he'd be
I'd
amazing at
rather
Barca.
buy him than buy Olmo and Williams. I'd rather buy one player because I feel like his impact on Barca would
Yeah.
be crazy.
I could agree with that, but
But I can
just
see where
don't
they're
know-
coming from. Where
Alvarez
Williams
is an interesting one though. I just don't know where he goes.
I don't think I can afford him, man.
Like the only team I reckon that would try to push for him is Arsenal, and there's no way City's selling
No,
to Arsenal.
they would not dare. They would not
There's
dare.
not.
Do that, yeah.
They're not going to do that. Like,
Maybe does he end up at PSG if they don't find Osimhen? Because it's gone a bit quiet there
if
as
you're
well.
Alvarez, though, do you go to PSG? I feel
Well,
like
no, again, this is on my point. I
Alvarez
wouldn't.
is big. Like the whole reason Alvarez is wanting to leave is because of game time,
and
like,
Champions
he
League
actually
and winning.
cares about his football. It
Yeah.
seems.
Yeah.
I don't think he's the type of player to go to PSG.
Where does he go? Because like Barcelona at the place, but the money's not there. It just isn't there right now. You think?
Yeah, like he's definitely a Barca player, but I heard Real's in for him a little bit.
Could you imagine that Real get him and nah, surely not.
You just don't know with that.
He'd never play football ever again for Real. I'm trying to think that there's nowhere really else.
Yeah, there really isn't.
Unless Bayern really want to go ballsy and get Kane and Alvarez in the same team. That's the only other team that could
because
afford him.
There's no Italian team that's got the money anymore. Italian football's
Juve
just
waste all their
died a
money.
bit.
Napoli are doing like €10 million, €10 million euro spending. They're not spending big money. So
Or, yeah.
it's going to have to be Bayern, Barca, or bust, realistically.
Yeah, you could obviously maybe Chelsea, but I'm just not sure.
I
City,
can't see City selling to a Premier League team.
I'd agree with that. But in the same way, I don't think they'd sell to Arsenal.
Because they're the direct rival, right?
Yeah.
Not
for
United, obviously.
Yeah, they wouldn't sell to United, obviously.
Or
either.
Liverpool. I
Or
think they're the
Liverpool.
three. They sold to Chelsea.
They sold to Arsenal when Arsenal weren't that good, though.
Yeah.
So why would they
could-
not sell to
They
Chelsea?
could sell to Chelsea.
But maybe they learned from those
That could make
mistakes.
Chelsea very, very good, though, when you think about it.
Maybe they've learned from that. And I feel like he could be he's definitely a Barca player.
100%. A Pep 2.0 player.
Yeah.
Pep 2.0 manager. That's their missing link as well in many regards. A clinical striker that can make for himself.
Yeah, it's interesting. Oh.
To be honest, he probably ends up staying, but I'd
Ends up
love to
staying and
see him
playing
go.
Where, though? That's the problem, I feel.
That's a problem as well.
He's one of those players. He has to be starting.
Oh, he's
And I think he
won
wasn't.
every tournament he's been in.
Yeah, he wasn't actually angry at the fact of his game time last season. He was like, I think he was angry at the fact of like FA Cup came around, he got 0 minutes. Like he's like, how did I play such a good season, and then they give me 0 minutes in an FA Cup final?
Yeah, it's some strange calls that Pep makes as well, because you know how he's like with the team. It'll be interesting. There's a lot to be discussed about that going forward. I want to see him move. One, because he's Man City player, and two, because we want to see him at his best. He'd fit at Barca, but I feel like he'd have to wait till next year if he wants that Barca
Is
move.
Pep saying stay along though because Haaland could leave at the end of the year?
Haaland
Haaland's already
might be
spoke
gone.
about his 3-year plan.
Yeah.
This is the last year of that 3-year plan.
And it's just Pep stay.
I just
next
wonder
year.
where Haaland goes though.
With
Real's-
FFP, money's not. You can't just splash money anymore.
No, but Real seems like the obvious choice.
But then you're gonna play behind Mbappe.
Yeah, like how you gonna
Vinny.
unless you somehow work out Mbappe to agree Mbappe to play on the right wing.
Mbappe right, Haaland and Vinny.
Yeah,
Wow.
you might as well just pack up ship every other
Mate,
team.
every team can just give up. There's no chance.
And then like super subs of like Rodrigo, Vinny.
Hendrick.
Oh, and in behind Mbappe, in behind Haaland, you got Bellingham,
Bellingham. Goulart will be there as well.
Gula, and then you have Endrick, Rodrigo, Diaz.
Give it up. Give it up. And Carlo might just stay forever and just sit there with his eyebrow, mate, and they'll win everything. Surely. I wouldn't put it past Real. That's the thing. That's why it's sort of a bit scary. The last one to talk about is West Ham.
Yeah,
Your club
crazy.
is cooking. Full cook. Here we go. Somerville. Here we go. Rodriguez, we don't know much about, but a very, very good free agent signing. Here we go. And now moving on to Wan-Bissaka. 4 massive signings for them.
It's actually crazy. You look at their team and you go, well, they're going to have Bowen now, who's going to play as an out-and-out
On the
winger.
right, like that.
Paqueta as an out-and-out winger.
Kudus down the middle.
Down the middle. Fulcook up top.
Clinical striker.
In behind them, they're going to have probably Alvarez.
And this Rodriguez might have you might have him rotate through the squad. You could have the young kid. There's a young kid that they started playing last year, was really good in midfield as well.
Yeah, but they're playing that more. They're not going to have those. They're not going to have Souček, Ward-Prowse. They might play Souček and Alvarez.
They'll probably rotate those two around, you'd think.
Yeah, but then the 10's going to be Kudas. They're going to play as this more expansive football. And they signed a centre back. Who was it though?
Kilman.
Oh, yeah,
came
they
across,
signed
yeah.
Kilman.
Yeah, Kilman came across.
Yeah, so like that moves into, I don't know if you're ready to go on to the,
We can do that.
Bold
We can do
predictions,
that.
but-
Because I had something about West Ham as well.
I've got a big one on West Ham.
So we'll
it's
start with
not
that point first.
Yeah.
So what's your statement / prediction about West Ham?
West Ham make top 6 and join the likes of Villa and Newcastle.
Oh my gosh. So mine was literally West Ham can be the next Brighton Villa pushing up in the table. That was my literal word for word.
I said that next tier underneath the big 6.
They could break in. They could even break in.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can classify just based off what Newcastle did last year, and I'm not ready to say it with Villa. One more year, yes.
yeah.
If they broke into that that big 6, yeah. Obviously, they're probably performance-wise are better.
Yeah.
But like the big 6 is the big
big
6.
six, yeah.
Big 6 are the big 6 because they've done it for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Not because they
Yeah,
finished
for a season.
Like Leicester won the league. We didn't go after.
six.
We didn't go the year after that and go, oh, they're the big 7 now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it didn't happen. You have to do it for
With
a
the
couple of
proof,
years.
yeah.
And Newcastle was showing it, but a bit dodgy at the same time.
West Ham have got that depth now. Midfield depth, forward. Because all of a sudden you get a strike and all of a sudden you can move players back into position.
Oh, definitely.
So you've got 2 per position now. And they're no Europe this season. They're just going to go Premier League and Cup football. Lopetegu's there, a manager who's done European football. I feel like the way they'll play, I'm just worried about the defence and how attacking that defence can go and how they can deal with the high line and playing in possession. Saying that, Lopetegui does like to play a little bit more traditional back four, like to hold the defenders back a bit. So I tell you what, Fulkrug, I'm calling it. He could bag 10 to 15 this year. He's that guy who just gets goals in the back of the net.
Yep.
Bowen, assist numbers. Paqueta and Kudus in position.
I know. Crazy.
I'd be worried. I'm
that
worried if I'm on
front
the team.
four is insane. Like, you think about
The
it,
best in the league.
if United had that front four, like, if you
Right.
could just swap, like, Hoyland for probably, and you wouldn't
You
even
whack that
mind.
in. You whack that in. I wouldn't even mind Fulkrug because it's
Yeah,
a
yeah. But
clinical
you
striker.
think that front four, it's probably better than our front four.
In terms of performances, yes.
Yeah.
Consistent performances, they've got those players.
Definitely.
Bowen was, we saw last year, consistent performer. Fulkrug, for me, I love him as one of the most consistent goal scorers. And when you have Paqueta in position and Kudus in position, what's stopping them? They're going to score a lot of goals. I think we can at least say that. They're going to be entertaining this year.
I agree.
Because we love David Moyes, the big fella, but they're always very defensive. This year, they're going to go after it. They're going to go and attack teams. And I feel like they might not break into that Villa and Newcastle mould, but they might play like those teams. They might play with the confidence because it needs to sit back at home a bit.
Like, that's why I've got them top 6 and
Yeah.
not top 4 because
Yeah.
both Villa and Newcastle did top 4. It's probably unlikely they do top 4.
I
But I
think
think
they
they
go,
can
yeah.
break that into that next category. It's whether obviously Newcastle and Villa break into the big 7
The big
or,
guys, yeah.
Yeah, big guys. But I'm saying if they both don't break into the next category, I think West Ham joins them in that second category.
I'm feeling a Brighton type season where they get sort of Europa League football. They go good in the league as well.
It's different though to Brighton. I feel like Brighton's model is like they just got those youngsters that perform.
Yeah, sorry, it's not that model, but it's that type of season where
No, yeah. I
It's
just
gonna be
what
consistent.
what I was getting at is Brighton's got that type of model. That,
different model, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they've got those youngsters
Yeah.
that then they just ship off. I feel like West Ham are actually
They're growing.
happy to spend a bit of cash, happy to like. You could see next season them taking that next step, maybe a better couple of defenders.
Yeah,
It's
fullbacks,
probably their
yeah.
fullbacks. Like they've got to get Wan-Bissaka, but probably another centre back because Kilman's a good signing. But
Yeah.
if you want to take that next step,
you're gonna go the Aston
you're-
Villa
if you-
mode.
when you've got like the likes of like Kudus and Paqueta
Yeah.
and Bowen, you probably want that caliber of centre back now.
Yeah, you're wanting that
Yeah.
Spanish in the back.
But
That's,
then
yeah.
yeah,
I have a good
they,
feeling
they
about
were in for Tadimo, so
Maybe if they land him as... No, they don't have any money left, would they?
I'm not sure.
Because Wan-Bissaka is their next bid. So I think 20, 25, or United want 25, I think, but they bid 20. So that should be all their money done, but you never know.
Oh, there was one transfer we didn't touch on. I just remembered. Fabrizio in the last 12 hours has said that United will have to spend between 60 to 65 joint deal for Mazarak
Mazuri. And
Delit.
and so I did write that down. It looks... I don't know if I took this too literally, but Delit's last Instagram post was him in a Bayern kit training and said, welcome back. He wrote, welcome back, and then at Bayern Munich. So I don't know if that's saying he's now committed just to Bayern. So I think Mazraoui would basically come. Ugarte looks like he's coming probably on a loan to buy. But Delit has gone very, very quiet.
Yeah, it has gone quiet, but
It might be one of those
Everyone was like,
Casemiro type signings.
Even Fabrizio though, it was like 65 million for both. I'm like,
I'd take that. I'd take that. But United's like they're waiting a lot.
Yeah, but if you get 25 for Wan-Bissaka, could somehow
You got to get. They got to try and sell McTominay. They want 30, but I don't think they're going to get 30.
No, but let's say you get 25 for Wan-Bissaka. You probably try sell Lindelof.
I would, but it looks like they haven't been sold around. They haven't been
Yeah, I
shopped.
think it's the fact that Yori's got
Injured.
now.
But if you just bring in a better centre back like De Ligt, I mean, so big. I want De Ligt.
Yeah, but
and
you bring in
Ugarte.
De Ligt still, then you've only got De Ligt, Martinez, and Maguire to start off the season. You know Martinez's history.
And Maguire struggled a bit.
And you're
injury.
very close to playing Johnny Evans again.
Our best centre back of last season. Yeah, no, it's true. It is very, very true. I'm still confident, but seeing the Instagram post where he actually tagged Bayern, he's in a Bayern
Do you think
kit.
United sign a centre back though? Even with Yori injured, you don't think we sign one?
I think if they don't sign De Ligt, they're not going to. You have to make up all that time to go and do like negotiations with the player again, the agent, and then so if you're going to sign anyone,
Braithwaite's already in negotiations done with player.
yeah, but you're going to pay even more.
Yeah,
for
I know.
Braithwaite.
You're not right.
I think De Ligt's a better centre back, and he's played with under 10 out of 10.
Really with Braithwaite, are you not? You might as well just play Maguire.
It's giving Maguire 2.0 as well.
Yeah.
Come to the club and just like struggle in the pressure. I don't know. That's my view on things. But
Alright.
West Ham, we've both got them pushing up at least.
Okay,
back to where they
so
were. Your next point.
Liverpool finish outside the top 6.
Wow. Okay, I got the other way around. I got Arne Slot and Liverpool succeed and win at least a trophy this season.
Ooh.
So I've gone the total other way around.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Their pre-season's been elite.
They've been cooking.
They've been cooking. but
Pre-season is a bit pre-season.
We've seen this before.
Yeah, we've seen
with
pre-season.
a lot of clubs.
Yeah.
Look back at Chelsea last season.
Yep, they were the best team in pre-season
Chelsea, oh my God, everyone, they're going to finish third. I'm not convinced.
No, fair enough.
I'm saying new manager comes in. I think that there was a lot of points they got last year just because of the Klopp aura,
Yeah.
like the fact that Klopp was there. I feel like other teams kind of like shut the bed at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
It's a bit like Pep at the moment. Like, oh shit, we're playing Pep today. Oh shit, like Pep's team, we're playing Klopp's team.
Oh,
Like
we'll park.
it's got to that point
Yeah.
over the last couple of seasons where you probably win a few more points just based off that extra confidence. And I think teams are going to go to Liverpool and go, they got a new start. They haven't made any real sightings. Let's hit these guys hard.
Yeah, and again, that makes sense, and that's where my Liverpool cap must still be on. I still think this squad is really good. I said it in my 10 teams to watch video. The squad and the players are still the same.
Yeah,
They're still the same players.
I agree, but they played to a system that they had been playing. And I'm not saying Arne Slot's got a very similar system, but they played to a system that they developed. And remember how long it took them to develop into this system.
And that makes sense, but the players are good enough and the systems are close enough, but sometimes it's enough refreshment that you need sometimes just to keep going again. You see it a lot in football where a fresh start sometimes means a bit more energy on the group.
Yeah.
Some new players get more involved. I still think some of the young players, like the Harvey Elliott's improved a lot last season. We didn't see anything from Bajcetic last. He got injured all last season, so there's still more players that come into the squad. Gravenberch was nowhere near what we expected.
Yeah.
So there's still players in they can work in. I said to sell Carvalho. He's now like starting for them in pre-season, so they might end up, he might get more involved. So the question obviously is Nunes and Salah's form. That relies a lot on how they go.
Yeah, and it's not just that. I think that you got people like Endo, who's 31 and had an overachieved.
Oh, crazy season.
So much.
Yeah.
What he did last season, no one could expect. And even, like, hats off to him. Like, he was amazing. But does he do that again?
It is a question. I
And if
just
he
think they've
doesn't,
got what...
That's a big hole they had.
It's a hole. It's a hole. It's a hole.
A big hole.
McAllister did that role a lot last season and did it really well. Gravenberch should be able to do that role. Like, he should be able to drop in and help out McAllister as a double if you need to. And they still need to make a signing. I feel like the signing will be made in defensive. Looking at the team, I think I made a mistake saying sign Neto last week. I looked at the team again, like, a holding midfielder, it seemed like the sign they're going to make.
That's what I...
So if they do make it, it's even more confidence in me. I just think the players that are there, I think they're good enough. I think the manager has gotten to grips with this group well. And I think it's almost better they haven't signed anyone yet because he's able to work with the group, unite with the group. And there's just something about Liverpool. And again, and maybe it's still the Klopp era, but I still feel like these players just know how to win. Like these players, a lot of them have come through that Klopp era. They've experienced what you said, that like random comebacks. And they did a lot last season. The only nerves I have is that front line. When it's not in form, Liverpool struggle to score, and that's when I think they fall away. But if that front line starts like they did start last season, and the defence for me was one of their strongest points all year, I have them in the mix.
If you're Salah as well, though, you go, you know what? I don't have Klopp in my backing anymore. There's a few things that just
That's the thing. But they were like arguing coming in the season.
You look at the United drop off just because there was no Ferguson, aura.
Yeah.
Like, Ferguson won that 2013 Premier League with a
on-
shit team.
They were old, yeah.
Yeah, all old. And don't get me wrong, like, but it was the fact that there was a lot of games this season that you look at them and it was just like, that was confidence and Klopp's backing and a few of their older players sustainably playing well. And as soon as that dropped off, they dropped off.
Yeah.
And they still were all right in that second half of the season. But if they play like they did the second half of the season, the whole season.
Oh, yeah, don't get me wrong. That's a disaster. That's
Yeah, that's a disaster. And I just look at it like a lot of these clubs, when this big manager leaves, it's
big.
The best way I look at it is confidence is huge in sport. As a player personally, but then as a whole collective team. We were talking about it before with the goalkeeper and Rodri. Just little things like that ease you at heart.
Yeah.
The fact that you go, you know what, if we're down today, Klopp will have an idea to fix something up. You know what, we've done this so many times under Klopp's system. You look at the first hard game that comes in, and they're 1-0 down. Well, we haven't won a game from behind with Arne Slot's
tactics.
tactics.
There's a lot of unknowns.
It's all on the mentality of the players. The players keep the same mentality, but it's very easy for them to go, oh, straight away they're down first 1 or 2 games, and then go, well, this is because we don't have Klopp anymore.
Match day 1 can tell a lot. Ipswich away, first game on Saturday, it can tell a lot about this team.
Yeah.
Because if they concede first, that place bounces, then I'll know if I've got this thing right or not. Because you'll know straight away, a Jurgen Klopp team will get back in control. They'll control the game. Similar to that Brentford game last year, that early kickoff where they had 2 players go down in the first 20 minutes. Their subs have basically been used. There was no one on the pitch. Nunez scores a goal out of nothing. Salah came off the bench and impacted the game. That was Jurgen Klopp. And that was sort of in that peak of comeback season, right? And that's what they had a lot last season. They were able to get over the line. But in the same way, you could say they ran out of energy, ran out of emotional energy last year because of all the Jurgen Klopp stuff as well. Sometimes it's fresh starts and a lack of pressure on the shoulders.
I'm not saying anything about Arne Slot. I don't know enough about him and stuff.
I haven't seen enough of him. I'm
just saying any manager really that come in, yeah. And he could be a good manager, but I just don't know if this year's the year.
It'd be interesting to say. I think they just carry enough over. All right, our third point. What is your third point?
2 of the 3 teams promoted avoid relegation.
Wow, that's a big one. That's a good one. Do you have any inkling of who? Or you think...
I think Leicester.
Leicester?
And I'm going to go, I think Ipswich stay up.
Oh, be cool.
I think Ipswich are going to score the most amount of goals out of anyone in the bottom 10.
Right. I'll be interested to see next week then where you put them on the ladder, but they could do it. They could do it. They showed it last year.
I'm going to be honest as well. I think Southampton...
I think Southampton have a good chance.
I think they have a good chance as well. I could see a world where all 3 stay up.
We'd love that.
I think I'm being very, very, very unrealistic.
This is the time of the year to do it.
With the Ipswich one.
Yeah.
I think out of all of them, they just look a little bit like the Burnleys of the world. They've got this nice, expansive football play, really progressive. Love it, love being on the attack, but they just don't have the caliber of players. And I think realistically, if you look at it properly, they probably finish last.
Yeah, if you're trying to get as much right as possible.
Yeah, they probably finish last. But I think Leicester definitely, are going to avoid it.
Hope so, because they've got my mate, Steve Cooper. He's back there.
Yeah, I think they avoid it, and I think Southampton might
I like Southampton for some reason. I just like what they're doing.
I like them as well. So yeah, it will be interesting. So looking back at it, I'm probably wrong where I said that I think the 2 of the 3 teams will be Ipswich. It's probably Leicester and Southampton. But I wouldn't be surprised if Ipswich stay up as well. Which moves on. Oh, you go yours.
I'll go mine. Mine's another ladder-based one. They've got some 2 crazy ones at the end. I've got the mid-table be intense. I think this season, because of the West Ham comeback, Brighton might re-establish if all goes well. I think Palace are back. I think Bournemouth are in there. I think we're going for like a 8-team mid-table. Like I'm thinking a chunky mid-table where we're looking at a few points separating them. I think this year is going to be very tight from...
Was it not last year though?
But I think it's bigger. Last year, let me get the table up.
I'm not sure how it ended, but there was definitely a period of time where it was like
So we got
8 to...
So 10 to 14 was very, very close last year.
Last year, but I'm pretty sure 8 for 9 as well. Like, there was a period when Chelsea was...
Well, United are 11 points clear of 10th. So it's a lot of a... Like, I think this year I think you can go 8th to a 14th. I can go that sort of big. I reckon that mid-table, instead of being 20 or so points, I'm talking like 10 separate that bunch. I'm thinking a lot of teams are close, and that means that race for the final European spots, I think we're going similar to last season to the final day. And it's going to be very, very interesting in that regard. Maybe another FA Cup decides who gets to Europe.
Well, I'll move on from that then.
Your number 4 point.
Brighton to get relegated.
There it is. I was close to putting this as my point, but I might save it for next week. It's going to be touch and go.
You know what? Like, don't get me wrong. It's a little bit out there, and that's why they're bold predictions. But I can't see them finishing much higher than bottom 6.
It's going to be tough.
When you look at the improvements that the other teams have made, manager gone, do they finish higher than top 6? They tapered. They actually had a good start to the season, tapered off.
Yeah.
Manager gone, sold their best player, haven't brought really anyone in.
Not enough, yeah, no.
Other teams around them, like West Ham,
Yeah.
have already improved.
Yeah, I think Palace are improving.
Like, I look at like Leicester's squad and I go, your squad is better than Brighton's.
It's a funny one.
And if Leicester are coming out of there,
Yeah.
someone has to go in.
Go in there.
And even like Forest, who were poor, I think they've done more in this transfer window than Brighton have. And you look at the teams around them, like Palace were below them, Fulham were below them. Both are going to kick on way more than Brighton.
Smith Rowe at Fulham's going to be amazing.
Yeah. The Bournemouth
I think Bournemouth keep going as well.
keep going.
Yeah.
They've got another year under the manager, so...
That's the thing. All these teams, Silva, been there for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
Glasner's first full season. Iriola's second season. Like these teams that were in there, and then obviously Lopetegui's new manager, but he's like a Unai Emery level manager,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's there at West Ham. Who else is around that sort of spot? Like Wolves, Gary O'Neil second season.
Yeah.
Again, they're not doing great in the transfer window, but Gary O'Neil we know just finds a way.
Yeah.
Sean Dyche second season. Like Thomas Frank, Brentford, Tony might stay. Like there's a lot of teams that were below them.
That's what I'm trying to... And they've lost Pascal Gross, and they've probably... I just don't see where they have any... Their midfield is atrocious. And they can have these good young stars like Barker, and they've got... what's his name? The Italian.
Oh, Buonanotte? No.
Yeah,
Buonanotte, yeah.
And they've got these and they've got Evan Ferguson, but they're relying on like these 18, 19-year-olds to star to even get them anywhere near the top 10. And I'm not saying they won't avoid relegation, no, but I think they might get relegated.
They'll be in there at some point, at least.
Yeah, I reckon they'll get relegated.
We can move on that.
That's my call.
My 4th point, and this sort of goes against my list early on, I've got the old faces will come back to dominate the league. So I'm saying KDB, Mo Salah, Heung-min Son, Bruno Fernandes, Jack Grealish, Ruben Diaz, VVD, Trent, Rashford. Like these names that were like the 2020 to 2022 season, when these guys were like the top 10s of the league, I think they're going to fly this season. I think Rashford comes back big. I think Bruno's going to have a big, big season. I think this is the big guy to look
Both of
out
them
for.
having a big season. United's having a big
season. I hope, I've got the United top. I hope they have a big season. I think another one is Heung-min Son as well. If Tottenham get going this season and they can fit Son in a position, like just find him a spot. I don't care if it's striker or left wing. Just keep him there instead of rotating. He'll have a big year. I think Ruben Diaz comes back to his best form. I think he's been a little bit off it the last few seasons. And I think new season under Arne, so I think, as I said, I've sort of previously saying Liverpool do well. I think Salah, VVD and Trent all lift again to back to top level before they sort of have that wasting away. So I'm going Grealish as well. I'm going really rogue. I'm going all of them. That 2020 to 2022/3 season, those top faces, they all come back this year and fire. That's my big call. It's a rogue one because many may say Grealish on the way out. You know, does Trent fit in this system? Does Van Dijk do well under the manager? I think they all fire this year. KDB full season. I'll put them all up there.
So my last point, United to mimic the class of 92 with
He's
the
gone with it.
youngsters.
He's gone with it.
So, a huge call here. Probably my most bold
Bold
call.
at the lot, yeah.
Bold call. But I look back, prior to class of 92, those players all won the under-18s FA Cup.
What did these teams do?
What
They
did
that.
what did some of these players do with the under-18s FA Cup?
Mm.
We already saw, so we got Garnacho, who's kicked on, Mainu,
Yeah.
who is amazing.
Yeah.
We got Harry Amas, who not many people would know about, but young left back who started every single preseason game. And if Shaw's injured, he's our player. He's trumped over Malacia now.
Yeah.
He's our backup left back. We're not signing a left back.
Yeah.
He's the guy. And
the
even Ten Hag goes, he's probably not there yet, but 2-3 months.
Does anyone want to get there?
He could be that player.
Yeah.
Be like Manu last year.
Yeah.
There's other players, Collier,
Yeah.
who there's big raps on him. I can see him being on the bench all season.
Yeah.
That's 4 players to start off with. And we're not including the likes of, okay, I know they're not part of the academy, but those players that we also bought, like the Abbots,
Euro, Hoyland.
Hoyland. Yeah.
There's a lot of
There's a
them.
lot of youngsters
A lot of
coming
young
through.
It could be the average age is going to be so young.
Amazing. Like, if Shaw's injured, we're going to have a Mas, Garnacho, Mainu, maybe Hoyland, Abbott all starting in the same team.
Yeah, when Euro comes back, go 19-year-old Euro as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very young team. But it's been good.
Yep, very good.
It's going to be exciting. Consistency, though, will be the key. I like that. That's a good last point because it's for our club. My I was just going with a random one here, and I think you would like it because we always seem to talk about it. My random and most bold call, VAR will be scrapped for offsides either some point this season or come the end of the season.
Yeah, I could see it coming at the end of the season. I don't know.
Mid-season was a bold part of it.
Yeah, the
was a
mid-season part has been bold.
But I reckon
I
they'll
could see it happening.
I reckon they'll do a Liverpool-Tottenham 2.0 again at some point in the year.
Yep.
And I'll just get rid of it. I can see it happening. Because it was very close last year. Obviously, the big teams voted against it. But there was, I think, 3 or 4 of those lower teams, like Wolves and Nottingham Forest, I'm pretty sure voted for scrapping VAR. Not fully. I think offsides will go. You've been big on
Yeah, I'm happy for like goal line technology.
Yeah.
That needs to be in.
Keep fouls, like with bad reds that you miss. But outside of that, if it's offside by a knee, like, come on.
So I'm probably a little bit different with VAR. I'm more get rid of it. No, get rid of it for fouls.
Fouls. I think offside you have to go. It's
see,
too much.
I think offside, how do you not perfect it?
But they can't. They obviously can't.
I know, but how do you not? Fouls is hard because then they start getting into the rule book.
Yeah.
And it's like,
you know what, maybe scrap it all together.
This one, and then they put it into slow motion. And it's like, this one looks a little bit worse. And like, man, in real time, that didn't look that bad. If everything in slow motion looks bad,
100%.
like you get the knee out and a kick out, like
The Casemiro stuff's ridiculous, some of those ones.
yeah, and the ones that go back and like there's a little bit of a kerfuffle out on the like that doesn't need to be. No one's hurt.
Yeah.
That does not need to be. Like, give him a yellow
And get on with it.
and get on with it. Like, I think that doesn't need to be in that game. But the offside, obviously, if it continues the way it is, it needs to go. But there's surely a way you perfect the offside. There's a guy in a box. You draw a line. Like, how hard can it be?
Obviously too hard because they can't do the line or the last touch and I don't know, it was rubbish. You know what? It's probably easy to get rid of it all. Just let the ref. Because I think what's happening, and I think this sort of happened in like AFL, like Australian football as well. When you give the refs too much to worry about, they just don't referee well at all. Let them just ref the game as they see it. Forget this earpiece and upstairs and in the box. Let them ref it because there's nothing really wrong with refs before. They were doing a good enough job. Now all of a sudden they're not holding up the flag until they score the goal, and then like, you know, all this other defenders stop
You know
and
what the thing
fouls.
is as well, I think fans can understand if there was a mistake made and you can't fix it.
Yeah.
But like, I can't understand as a fan how do you stuff up an offside decision?
You draw the wrong
when
line.
You've got like technology, like to look at it. Everyone in the stadium, everyone on the TV can see it's offside, but somehow you're drawing a line. And what did you do? Go to preschool and start drawing the wonky line. Like, I don't get it.
I don't get it. So that's my call. I think either, you know what, probably easy. Scrap it all, like come season's end, or just at least they fix it up. Because I think this year, if you get one more Liverpool Tottenham type game, I can scorn. We're on a teetering edge, and I'd love it to be gone because we don't have to talk about it every week then. Because
that's fair.
I feel like actually the podcast needs it because we talk about it every second week most weeks. So there we go. That was our 5 each. I like it. It's good.
Beautiful.
You might bring that back mid-season as well. 5 bold prediction for the end of the year, but
Yeah,
it was good. Good episode. Prem is basically back.
I know.
Like we got Community Shield. I don't forgot until last night. Community Shield is back upcoming Saturday. Might have a watch on. We'll have to wait and see about that one. We will all hopefully, fingers crossed, be back next week. We're going to have to because it's the ladder predictions. It's our big episode. It's our reference point for the season. So we always talk about our ladder predictions. So that will be the one next week. Flynn should be back on the couch, all three of us. Nathan will be back on Thursday morning. Me and Nathan will be back. We're doing La Liga and Bundesliga predictions this week, I think. So that'll be exciting. A massive episode there as well. Thank you for coming on. Cannot wait for next week. Next week's a big one.
Big one. We'll have Community Shield to recap.
Community Shield to recap.
Ready to
Ladder
go
predictions.
straight into match week 1.
And match week 1. And we've got a combined Man City Chelsea 11 as well.
Ooh.
Previewing the first game of one of the first big games. It's going to be massive. We're going to try and not waffle next week. We've got a lot to talk about next week. We're going to struggle. See you guys then. Make sure 5 stars Spotify, 5 stars Apple Podcasts. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Thank you for joining us if you're new here on the channel. Make sure if you look at the Instagram post, there's a lot to come this year. A lot of exciting stuff. Thank you for jumping on. We'll see you all next week for more Prem action. Until next time, guys. See you later.